Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Talk about the Coach Cal perspective for a minute, because to me, what this game really showed was, in my opinion, there are two things about Coach Cal, and really two things about Arkansas. And really, when it comes to Coach Cal, I think two things really struck me in terms of this game and this win. Okay. So there are two thoughts with Coach Cal. Let me dive into them, and then we'll get to Arkansas big picture. Okay. The first one with Coach Cal is this proves, again, as we learn time and time again at Kentucky and time again at Memphis, you can never really count out his teams. And you know, it's not going well. I'm still not projecting Arkansas to make the tournament. I'm not going to sit on this show and say they're going to, you know, they're whatever, 14-8 or whatever. I'm not, or 13-8. I'm not going to predict them to go 10-0 over the next 10 games. That's not what I'm about to do. But what I will say, this proves that you really can never count on his teams for two reasons. One, love him or hate him, he's always going to have the dudes that can play at the highest level with just about anybody. Now, are they better than Auburn? No. Are they better than Alabama? No. But pretty much anybody else in the SEC, they're going to have the talent to play with and maybe beat on any given night. And listen, I understand there's always going to be the argument about X's and O's and how good is he really. Here's the bottom line. You still need players. I don't care how great you are as an X's and O's coach. There's a lot of great X's and O's coaches that are assistant coaches now because they could never get it done on the recruiting trail. And so I'm never going to criticize him for bringing in talent. I think you can argue, you know, is it too focused on just accumulating talent and not enough on a team? Okay, that's a different conversation. But he's always going to have the dudes that are good enough on pretty much any given night to go ahead and get the win. Beyond that, and I think this is the important part, I think we saw, once again, one of Calipari's greatest strengths, which I think became a frustration in his final years at Kentucky. His guys are loyal to him, and they're always going to play their butts off for him, okay? And so I think, you know, listen, there are a lot of negatives you can say about Cal, but one thing you can't say, there are a lot of coaches in college basketball that they bring players in, they let players leave, and it's a transactional deal. You come here, you get, you know, you stay for a year, 2, 4, whatever, and then you're out, and then we never really talk again. That's not who Cal is. That's not who Cal has ever been, okay? Let me give you a quick side tangent before I kind of give you some more details, okay? So for some of you, many of you don't know, but I actually wrote a book about Kentucky basketball in 2016, 2015. And it was about the 2009-2010 Kentucky team. You know, I called it One in Fun, about John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, etc. And I still, you know, I still remember vividly. I went to campus. You know, Dwayne Peavy was the administrator at that point. Eric Lindsay was the SID. And I remember them, you know, I went for a book tour, and they took me to Coach Cal's office, and he looks at the book and he says, "I love this. What can I do to help?" And he shared on his Twitter page, on his Facebook page, he shared a link to my freaking book. Okay. And I was, you know, much younger at the time, you know, maybe less established in my career. He didn't know me from anybody, but it's like, if he could do that for me, imagine if you're a dude that played for him for 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, you know, the stories go on and on. I remember a story from the book, actually. There was a student manager at the time. His name's Chad Sanders. Now, he's pretty high up in the Toronto Raptors organization now, and I don't want to speak for him, but he was a student manager for Cal at Kentucky in his first year. And he talked about, you know, for 3, 4, 5 years out of college, I was kind of grinding as, I forget if it was a scout or whatever. And Cal would call once a month. How you doing? You doing okay? What can I do to help? Who do I need to call? All that good stuff. And it's like, Cal doesn't have to help him. That's it. By the way, Cal doesn't have to help me. That's not a knock on this individual person. But it's like, Cal doesn't have to help me. He doesn't have to help his former student managers. We're not DeMarcus Cousins. We're not John Wall. We're not De'Aaron Fox. But it shows you the loyalty of his guys to him. By the way, I thought he had an incredible quote after the game about the whole, you know, the loyalty of the three guys on the team to him. Producer Matt, play the clip from the press conference.
Yes. You told us when we talked on Thursday that you're going to have
You told us when we talked on Thursday that you were going to have a conversation with Adu, DJ, and Big Z about going back. Can you share what that was, just how proud of you of their efforts tonight? They all played big roles.
Well, I called them in together, and I said, are you guys okay going back here? You're going to be okay? And they all said, we're fine, Coach. We're worried about you. That's the kind of team I have.
I mean, what else is there to say? You know, is it a little bit of Cal hyperbole? Maybe. But his guys were like, Coach, are you okay? What can we do for you? And that is the loyalty that he establishes in his guys. And that's why I could never count out a John Calipari team, because they are going to play hard for him. It might not always be pretty. It might take some time. But look, again, I go back to why I believed in this team in the offseason. They finished second in the SEC last year. By the way, it wasn't just the three guys on this team. It wasn't just Torres's experience 8-9 years ago. Did you see the tweets that started popping out during that game? Producer Matt, do we have Davion Mintz, former Kentucky Wildcat? He said, great win, coach. This is a former Kentucky Wildcat now tweeting about that. Great win, coach. Ty Washington tweeted, quote, walked into the trap and took over the trap. The trap, listen, I'm not hip on all the kids slang these days. The trap, I'm pretty sure, is Rupp Arena, and he's talking about Coach Cal walked in and took that freaking place over, okay? And by the way, if I messed up the kid terminology, I apologize. I'm old and boring. Finally, I thought this one blew up the internet, but I thought this was symbolic of guys' respect for Coach Cal. Producer Matt, can you show what Reed Sheppard was wearing walking into the Houston? Oh, my goodness. Reed Sheppard. He's wearing Kentucky shorts, but an Arkansas t-shirt. Now, listen, I'll go on a little bit of a side tangent here. I will defend Kentucky Wildcats. Didn't totally love the look. Kind of felt like, is that a scenario where, you know, listen, you can wear a shirt with Coach Cal's face on it. You can wear a shirt that says, you know, always supporting Coach Cal. I don't know that you should wear the opponent's actual colors and logo on your shirt, but that shows the loyalty that these guys have to Coach Cal. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? Just think about it. Reed Sheppard, listen, you can say what you want. I know he's a Kentucky kid. I know his dad played at Kentucky. But Reed Sheppard grew up going to John Calipari camp every summer. Grew up of waiting for that scholarship offer from John Calipari to go to Kentucky. And so, listen, it just shows that his guys are always going to be loyal to him. And again, it's why you can never count him out. Now, I will say, big picture, there has to be, I think, a little bit of a frustration from Arkansas fans, not because you're not enjoying the win, but solely because of the fact that it's like, damn, man, if we could go in and do that against Kentucky, why can we not do it against everybody? And you know what my immediate thought was as I was doing Fox Sports Radio, we reacted to this game before we talked a lot about Luka, is my reaction was, man, I wonder how badly Arkansas fans, and we're going to make that mistake a lot today, how bad Arkansas fans want those LSU and Oklahoma games back. For people who aren't diehard Arkansas fans, just did it again. For people who aren't diehard Arkansas fans, you lose to LSU 78-74. It was a game where you actually largely had control for about 30 minutes of the game. And then you lose by 1 at home, or lose by 3 at home last Saturday to Oklahoma. And yes, the win is great for Arkansas. They're 13-8 overall. But I'll tell you what, you win those 2 games. You're 15-6. And not only are you in the NCAA tournament, you're very comfortably in the NCAA tournament. And so I promise that, I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to sit here and say, there's 10 games left in the regular season. Kentucky or Arkansas is going 10-0 over the next 10. That's not what I'm going to say. But what I will say, if you can play like that, you're capable of beating anybody. And now it's on John Calipari to consistently get that effort and performance from start to finish out of his guys. You're not going undefeated. Auburn's really good. Alabama's really good, but you can't beat Texas on Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever you play them. If you play with that effort, you can't beat LSU in a rematch at Bud Walton Arena in a few weeks. If you play with that effort, you can't beat Missouri in a rematch. And I think Missouri's an incredible team. You still got Vandy, South. Those are winnable games if you can play like that. So it's on John Calipari. But the last thing I would say, I thought John Rothstein brought up a good point on Twitter on Saturday night. He just basically said, look, if you look at Arkansas's resume right now, 13-8 ain't great, but you have a neutral court win over Michigan. You have a road win at Kentucky. they're much more in the tournament picture than I think a lot of people realize. They got to win games. They got to win games that matter. But they're not out of this by any stretch. They basically I think they're what, 1-7 in quad one, 1-1 in quad two. They have no bad losses. They have no bad losses. And I just don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they can make a run, but they've got to do it. They've got to handle this whole situation. And man, oh man, it's all in front of them. They can be a tournament team. There's no reason that they don't have the opportunity to be a tournament team, but now it's on them to actually make it happen.